Iran, the bully of the Middle East. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military.
What's so extraordinary about tonight's strikes, not only, all eyes were on Fordow, and for the past week we've been talking about the B-2 bombers and the massive ordnance penetrators. Those are the 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker buster bombs. What we can report tonight, after Sean Hannity spoke to the president, we learned that there were 6 massive ordnance penetrators dropped on Fordow, and as the president wrote on Truth Social, that Fordow site is gone. My sources tell me that those bunker buster bombs would have been dropped through the air ventilation shafts at Fordow, so most likely 3 bunker busters through each of those shafts. We had been focusing on the entrances. There are 2 entrances to the Fordow site, which is 300 feet underground. We've also reported that the MOP bomb can penetrate about 200 feet underground, but they work in pairs. The B-2 bomber, which flew out of Whiteman Air Force Base, they fly nonstop and are refueled along the way to this site at Fordow. They drop 1 MOP bomb, a 30,000-pound bomb that goes about 200 feet down. There's soil that is then removed, exposed, and then the second bomb, which drops into a hole that is has a radius of about 25 feet. It goes into the same hole and can go even deeper. So Fordow, we understand, is gone. That is significant because that was the main nuclear enrichment site, and it was deeply fortified in that mountain. But then there are the 2 other sites. You have Natanz, which had 3 underground enrichment facilities. Those 3, we understand that 30 Tomahawk missiles were fired from U.S. submarines about 400 miles away from these sites, the sites at Isfahan and Natanz. Those U.S. submarines were most likely Ohio-class converted guided missile subs. Most likely the USS Georgia or Florida were involved in those strikes. What I'm being told, though, is that Isfahan is an even harder target than Fordow. We hadn't talked about it as much this week because all the focus was on the B-2s and the MOP bombs and Fordow. But Isfahan is where the uranium hexafluoride is, where the centrifuges are made. And my understanding is there is a tunnel into the mountain there, and it is much, much deeper than at Fordow. And so we will have to wait and see the bomb damage assessment at that site to see how, whether it was completely destroyed. I'm told from very, very knowledgeable sources that that was most likely the hardest site. So we'll have to see.
I know we're still getting new information coming in here, Jennifer, but just for kind of clarification here, we have been told, or we've been kind of reporting that the B-2s went in and they went into Fordow and may have dropped as many as 6 of the bunker busters, and there were as many as 30 Tomahawks fired at Natanz and Isfahan. And I'm wondering, do we know, have we ruled out the possibility of any bunker busters being used on Isfahan and on Natanz?
I'm told that the bunker busters were used at Fordow and that it was the Tomahawks that targeted Natanz and Isfahan. So at this point in time, you would have had at least 3 B-2 bombers there above Fordow. Again, when we woke up this morning, all eyes were on the reports and the sightings, the radar trackers, the flight trackers who saw that there were those 6 B-2 bombers flying towards Guam. And now if you were to fly from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri all the way to Iran, let's say, that's a 30-hour straight flight. So those bombers could not possibly have been involved in this strike. That's when we look at what would have been flying east. Clearly, some B-2 bombers from Whiteman flew east, and that's why we saw this week about 30 air refuelers that were positioned in Europe and along the way and throughout the Middle East, because they would have been required to create an air refueling bridge to get those B-2s. It's a 15-hour flight if you go east from Whiteman to Fordow. And so those bombers would have flown east, and they would have been refueled along the way, and they would be on their way back home to Whiteman.
We love our great military, protect them. God bless the Middle East, God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.